Write each quadratic equation in vertex form by completing the square. State the coordinates of the vertex. So our first quadratic equation is y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. So the first step here is going to be to take the numerical coefficient of x, which is referred to as b. We're going to divide it by 2 and square it, and then we're going to add and subtract it to this trinomial. So that's going to look as follows. So the first two terms stay the same. Then we take the coefficient b, which is 2, divided by 2, and we square it. We have added it to the first two terms, and then we're going to subtract it from the first two terms. So effectively, we're not changing the trinomial at all. We're adding and subtracting the same quantity. And then at the end, we still have the plus 3. So if we evaluate this, we're going to get x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 1 plus 3. Now at this point, the first three terms, x squared plus 2x plus 1, makes a perfect square trinomial. We can factor this trinomial as follows. We can get x plus 1 squared. That's factoring the perfect square trinomial. And then we just have minus 1 plus 3, which is 2 plus 2. So at this point, we now have this quadratic equation in vertex form, or also referred to as standard form. And now we're able to determine the vertex. And the x-coordinate of the vertex is -1. The y-coordinate of the vertex is +2. Our second quadratic function is y equals x squared plus 12x plus 20. And we're going to do the same procedure here. So first we're going to take the value of b, which is 12. We're going to divide it by 2 and square it. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So we're going to add 36, subtract 36, and then the final plus 20. So at this point, we have a perfect square trinomial right there, the first three terms. So we can go ahead and factor that. We're going to get x plus 6 squared. And then we're left with -36 plus 20, which is -16. And we have it in vertex form. So our vertex is going to be -6 as the x-coordinate and -16 as the y-coordinate. Our third trinomial, our third quadratic equation, is y equals -x squared plus 8x minus 7. So in a and b, these two quadratic equations, they have the coefficient, numerical coefficient a, which is the coefficient that's in front of the x squared term, equaling to 1. Okay? And when that is the case, the completing the square just follows the procedure we did in both a and b. In c, our coefficient a equals -1, which means that what we want to start by is to factor out that -1 from the first two terms in this trinomial. So the way that's going to look is that I'm factoring out a -1 or just a minus sign. And then in brackets, I'm going to put what's remaining of those first two terms is simply x squared minus 8x. We close the bracket and then we just have -7. Okay, so the key thing here is that we're factoring out the -1 here from the first two terms only, not from the last term, the third term. We could factor it out from all three terms. We'll still get the right answer. We can still get to the answer. The only difference is that we're creating more work for ourselves. Okay, so at this point, we're going to proceed the same way we did up here, but there's going to be some extra brackets to keep track of. Okay, so we have the -1 we factored out, and then I'm going to go. Actually, I'm not going to put that bracket just yet. I'm going to go x squared minus 8x, and now we divide the 8 and square it. So that's going to be half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So we add 16. We subtract 16. We close the bracket, and then we have the -7 on the outside. And now we can see that we have a perfect square trinomial right there. So we're going to continue here by factoring that out. We're going to be left with x minus 4 squared. And then we have -16, closing bracket, and then a -7 on the outside. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this factored out -1, the GCF, back into this bracket. We're multiplying it back in. And that means we're going to get negative x minus 4 squared plus 16, and then the -7. And then the only thing that now remains is to combine the like terms, the two numerical constant, 16 minus 7. So 16 minus 7 is 9. Which means that our vertex has an x-coordinate of 4 and a y-coordinate of 9. Our last quadratic equation is y equals -x squared minus 10x minus 31. Again, our a is -1, so we're going to start by factoring out a -1 from the first two terms, which leaves us with x squared plus 10x and a minus 31 at the end. And then we get x squared plus 10x, and we take the 10 divided by 2 and square it. So it's going to be 25. So we add 25, subtract 25. We get our perfect square trinomial, which we can factor as x plus 5. We bring the negative sign back into the bracket. So we're going to get negative x plus 5 squared plus 25 minus 31. We combine the two numerical constants. 25 minus 31 is -6. And the coordinates of the vertex are going to be -5 and -6.